1 month from now, you know what it's going to be?
Next week.
July 18th.
Training camps. Yeah, July 18th.
But by that I mean then it's just, rookies.
We're a week away from training camp.
I think some will already be open, right?
Really? On July 18th?
I don't know. Look it up.
Let's see.
Hold on. Let's pop on Schlereth. You there, Mark? You there, Mark Schlereth?
Yeah, I am here, man. How are you?
What's the earliest you ever reported for training camp?
I have no idea. I don't remember. I just remember around 4th of July is when life as you know it is kind of over, right? You'd like at 4th of July, especially as an offensive lineman, because, you're completely motivated out of paranoia and fear. Nothing good can happen to you. And so you get around July 4th, and then you're just like, oh, gosh, 3 weeks or 2 weeks away from reporting to training camp. And then I'm just going to beat the living piss out of myself and never feel right again. And then you just kind of, shuffle off, and that's what you do. And so, but most of us are miserable. So most offensive linemen are, you think about it, Rich. I mean, think about this. You're nothing more. You can have the greatest game in the world, and you're running back and go for 300 yards rushing or whatever, 250 yards rushing, and you're no more than a tagline at the beginning of his set. Got to give it up to the big guys up front, man. They did a great job. Let's talk about me. And then and that's what you get. The only time you ever get recognized on a broadcast is when you get a holding call.
Right.
Holding 69, back 10 yards. So nothing good happens to you when you play offensive line. That's why none of us want to play Monday Night Football or Sunday nights. None of us want to do that. We all just want to kind of live in anonymity and play 1 o'clock kickoffs and then go home.
Yeah. I think that covers it.
Well, and I guess that works for the Tennessee Titans this year, right? Aren't all their games 1 o'clock? All their games at 1 o'clock.
Yes, indeed.
Mark Schlereth here on the Rich Eisen Show. We're back here on our radio and Roku channel feeds. We're just talking about training camp. At least when you got to training camp, you had the 5-star accommodations, right, Mark? Back in the day, the mini bar.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah. Nothing says 5-star more than Greeley, Colorado, or when I played in Washington.
Yes.
Our training camps were in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and we were held in the ladies' dorms. That's where the players were. So not only are you miserable, and that was back when you practiced twice a day and you beat the living snot out of one another. And Joe Gibbs' practices were all full pads, full contact, full go, all the time. And then in the middle of the night, you're sore and you're beat up. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You have to shuffle off into the ladies' bathrooms. There's no urinals, so you got to pee in a toilet, right? And oh my God, it was a nightmare. Just a nightmare.
Oh my God. Well, moving on back to the here and now, Mark Schlereth. Let's jump into it. Which team, based on everything you got from mini camps and everything like that, are you most looking forward to seeing all 18 of their games, all 17 of their games, 18 weeks of their season? What do you got?
I think there's 2 teams in the AFC that really resonate with me because I think they've got a lot to prove. Yes. I think the Buffalo Bills, as good as they are, and they play in maybe arguably the weakest division in football in the AFC East, the Bills, it feels like if they don't go to a Super Bowl, then it's just a failure. The season's for naught. And I feel the same way about the Ravens. And I think it was fair a couple of years ago to point the finger at Lamar, even a year ago, and say, hey, Lamar's got to play better in the playoffs. When the playoffs roll around, that dude's got to play better. And I think he's acquitted himself quite well. So then it becomes, hey, the Ravens, man, you guys have to make decisions. You can't quit running the ball. You have got to, as a coaching staff, put your players in a position to win. So I think they've got a ton of pressure on them because anything short of a Super Bowl to me is a failure. And then if you look in the NFC, I think probably the coach with the most, in Buffalo, Sean McDermott has a ton of pressure on him as well, right? As does John Harbaugh, because they haven't won a championship. They haven't won an AFC championship or gone to the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl championship with Lamar, who's been a multiple MVP winner. And then I think in San Francisco, I know a lot of people talk about the injuries and, hey, you're moving off of, veteran players and you're going to have a lot of young players playing for you. I really think this is a really good team, but ultimately this falls on Kyle Shanahan with all the pressure that he has on him because he is the guy in my mind. Everybody talks about it. What a great play caller he is, what a great head coach he is. I've witnessed it firsthand. I played for his father. The guy is an amazing, amazing coach. But you know what? You've gotten to the Super Bowl twice and you've lost it. And, one of them was an overtime decision that is very questionable to take the ball last, to essentially receive the football when Patrick Mahomes is on the other side. So there's a lot to prove there as well. So it really, it's right around the corner. I cannot wait.
So let's talk about this here. Super Bowl or bust teams, right? In terms of whether their season is viewed as ultimately successful. Although, technically all 32 teams should have that sort of pressure placed upon them of expectations. Would you put Buffalo and Baltimore in that category? Kansas City's in that category, right? Wouldn't you say that?
Sure. Although they've been to 5 and won 3 of them. So you know what? I mean, I wouldn't be, listen, man, as a former Bronco, I wouldn't be pissed off if a lot of bad things happened to them and they didn't win any games. So
this guy, right?
That wouldn't bother me in the least. But yeah, they've got such great expectations. As much as I try to hate them, Andy Reid is a great human being. I love him. And as much as I want to hate Mahomes, I just can't seem to bring myself to hate the guy because he's so good. He's so much fun to watch. So I root against him, but not really. It's just kind of, just good old fashioned sports hate.
Yeah. I mean, he's Steph Curry in cleats. So but I'm just talking about Super Bowl or bust, right?
Right.
Let's see who else would be Super Bowl or bust. Would you
Philly?
put Philadelphia in that regard? What about Detroit? Last year, that was their sense. Last year, but not anymore because they lost their coordinators. Or what do you think?
No, I think you still have to. I think one of the things that people don't talk about, and I don't know if you and I talked about this or not, but like Dan Campbell plays the role of meathead well, and I don't think people really understand how smart and how good a coach he is. And what an offensive guy he was. Remember when he came to Detroit, like it was, I don't want to say begrudgingly, but it took a little time to give the offense over to Ben Johnson. And they worked that in unison. And Ben is incredible now in Chicago, but Dan had a lot to do with how that offense has been established and the way they run that offense. So I give them a lot of credit on that. I'm with you on Detroit. Detroit is so talented. Now they lost, the interior of their offensive line. That scares me a little bit. Frank Ragnow decides to retire. There's going to be some mixing and matching there, some new guys playing. And you could make a very compelling argument that last year they were, one or two as far as offensive lines is concerned in the National Football League from just a talent perspective and the way they play the game. So that's a big turnover to me. They should get so healthy on defense. They should get so many players back on defense, Aiden Hutchinson and that seems to hopefully rectify itself, so to speak, even with a new coordinator.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. That kind of exhausts, at least in my mind, a sense of Super Bowl or bust candidates because there are tons of them where it's playoff or bust. I would imagine for the Cowboys it's NFC Championship game or bust, so at least they can get to that point. I'm wondering if Washington's in that regard because if they don't make it that far, then it's a step back in terms of how far they went, unless they're still so young in the process, still early in the process. Right. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, Washington's interesting because I don't think anybody expected that level of success. And I did week 2. I did Giants at Washington, and if we had truth serum for Dan Quinn, he'd tell you I didn't expect to go that. I didn't expect to go that far.
Right.
Not at that moment. Now I will say this: the young quarterback, you watched him week in and week out just address the mistakes and not repeat mistakes, which is huge. Like, hey, I understand the mistakes are going to happen. It's when you don't repeat those mistakes. But look how many, what was it, 9 one-score games that they won or something of that nature. All the fourth down conversions that they had. You would have to think at some point you're kind of going to regress a little bit in your fourth down conversion opportunities in the one-score games. You might lose a couple of those. So, you would think they'd have to come back a little bit, but that's a good team. They did address the left tackle position. They addressed it with Deebo Samuel. So they went out and got a few more weapons. And I'm a big Dan Quinn fan. I love, just the attitude and the attention to detail. And you walk out on that football field on Friday practice, man, and they are dialed in as a staff and as players. So they've got really great, culture and chemistry on that football team.
Let's talk about something a little close to home, Mark Schlereth. What is the valid, legit level of expectation of the Broncos? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that you got to look at them. They go to the playoffs last year. They win 10 games. They get throttled by Buffalo in the playoffs. I would look at two things. Defensively, they were a top defense last year. They've addressed Hufanga in the middle of the football field safety position and Greenlaw. And if Greenlaw is healthy after, coming off that Achilles tendon that he only played a handful of games last year, if that guy's healthy, that dude is a football playing Jesse, man. That guy can flat play. So I love watching him. I think they addressed that defense quite well. They also went out and got a tight end. They have not had a tight end really Owen Daniels, maybe the last guy that was real productive at the tight end position. They went out and got Evan Ingram. So that, in theory, from a passing standpoint, a split out standpoint, Sean Payton always calls them jokers, guys that can play multiple positions, carry the ball on jet sweeps and do all that stuff. So I think that definitely creates a bonus for Bo Nix in the passing game. And then they've got to fix the running game, Rich. Bo Nix was their best rusher last year. They were not very good running the football. If they can do that, I don't know how much better their record will be because of the division they play in. The Raiders have gotten better under the changes that they have made with Pete Carroll and the likes. I think the Chargers, who beat the Denver Broncos twice last year, are formidable, and I love the way they're built from the inside out under Jim Harbaugh. And obviously, you got the Chiefs. So I don't know that their record's going to be much better than 10-7. Maybe they gain, maybe they win one extra 11 games. But I do think they'll be more competitive. And I think they'll be better if they when they get into the playoffs. And I'm assuming they're going to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I mean, they drafted Jody Barron, right? And they got the defensive player of the year also playing corner. Hufanga now joins this secondary as well, as you mentioned. Nick Bonito, defensive player of the year type resume from last year. Zach Allen, as good as they come. Dre Greenlaw. I mean, that's just John Franklin Myers. Not many people mention him. You got the defense, the offensive line appears to be, improved as well. I love the drafting of R.J. Harvey. Not a lot of people were talking about him at the Combine, obviously, and for top 30 visits. The signing of Dobbins, too. I mean, I think they're improved, Mark. I really do think they are.
I think they are, too. Tougher schedule. You're not sneaking up on anybody like you did a little bit last year, right? I'm with you on R.J. Harvey, and I'll be honest, I cover the draft. I look at the first rounders. Who's coming out in the first round?
Right.
I didn't know R.J. Harvey from Adam. So then, of course, as soon as they drafted him, because I still do my radio show in Denver, I'd start digging into the film.
Right.
And that dude can play. That dude can play. And he is one of those guys that is dynamic. He runs tough between the tackles, got great contact balance. He's elusive between the tackles, but he seems to me to have breakaway speed. And I know they didn't use him a lot in the passing game, but if you look at Dobbins and R.J. Harvey as kind of a Kamara / Ingram,
right,
like Sean Payton had back in the day in New Orleans, like that could be a pretty fearsome group right there. So I'm excited about their running back room because I thought it was the biggest weakness they had on their football team, and I think they've addressed it quite well.
Mark Schlereth here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, first time we're talking with Aaron Rodgers, now signed, sealed, delivered to the Steelers. How do you think that's going to work, fit, look, the whole business? What do you think?
Yeah. I did a game late. I did that Jacksonville game late December, and
he looked great.
Devontae Adams had over 200 yards, and Rodgers was orchestrating stuff. And so I'm because I'm doing the game, I sat down with Rodgers for close to an hour, and we probably talked for 20 minutes on just the run game and how honestly, schematically, Rich, and I know it's your Jets. But schematically, it's the worst run game I've ever watched on film. It like what you guys are doing. I had no idea. Like it was like I cannot believe that they're actually coaching this. And so Aaron and I talked for 20 minutes just on the inefficiencies of the run game, or 25 minutes on that. And then just the way he was playing. And early in the season, he had an ankle and then a hamstring, and he couldn't move, and he was really limited. Toward the end of the season, when I dug through the 3 games that I always watch as I'm prepping, I'm breaking down the coach's film, 3 games. I was like, damn, like Aaron can play. And then I'm watching him pregame on Sunday morning. And pregame, I'm watching him throw the football versus the way a bunch of 25-year-olds throw the football. And it's like varsity versus JV. Like that dude can still rip it. I mean, rip it. And once he started feeling decent and healthy toward the end of the season for the Jets last year, that dude started playing really good football. Now, again, he's 41 years old. So can you stay healthy? Can you keep him upright? I will say this about Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator, flat knows how to run the ball. Understands how to change personnel groupings, understands, the multiple tight ends and all the things that they'll use. And that was a big issue for Rodgers, their lack of a running game and the lack of understanding in the running game and marrying the running game to your play action game. If you put that stuff together, and, these are 2 ifs, if that's together, like Aaron, there's no question Aaron's going to be able to diagnose it, figure it out, and do his thing. But if he's healthy, and you've got that kind of run game mixed with that play action game, he's going to tear it up.
How did he respond when you talked about what you saw in the run game last year, if you're willing to share? I mean, was he...
Oh, yeah. He went on Aaron is one of those dudes, he can tell what coverage you're in by the front you're playing.
Yeah, right.
Like he just understands football at an unbelievable level. And sometimes he'll get on a diatribe where, and I find this fascinating, I love it, where he's talking, we're talking together, but he's really going through it in his mind. You could see him with the pictures in his mind going, we're running, a belly week, and, you got a one technique, and you're going to have to hug. Like that thing should cut back to the backside A gap, but we're stretching it on the front side. Like he's just going to town. And I'm like, because I've seen it all, I'm like, 100% correct. What are you guys doing? You need to gap that up to the middle linebacker as opposed to stretching out wide. Like all these different things that you think of as an offensive lineman, and he is talking the game as though he plays guard. Like, and I find that most guys can't do that. Most guys outside their position can't talk about the problems in other positions. I always think the greatest coaches and the greatest players have a wonderful understanding of everybody's issues and everybody's problems. So if you can understand what the problem is of the defense or the coverage, then you have a better chance to attack it. And there's nobody I've ever talked to, Brady, a couple of guys, that have a better understanding of everybody's issues on a football field at one time.
Yeah, it's not the neck up; it's will the neck down be able to, withstand 18 weeks of a regular season and then beyond all that. And I think obviously Arthur Smith, as you said, he knows how to run the football. And even Falcon fans would say that they would say that he didn't give it to one guy enough. But right. Other than that, he, Tomlin, Rodgers, they're going to be same page. I really believe it. Just there's there's just a lot of question marks around that I can't wait to see answer in arguably the toughest division of football. So
yeah, well, you started this whole thing with the Tennessee Titans. Unlike the Tennessee Titans, we're going to see a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers
Damn
games.
Straight you are. I know. I mean, the league sensed that Rodgers was coming. Why else would they put him in the home of the Jets week 1? You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Do you know what your week 1 assignment is yet, or that's still to come?
I have no idea yet, okay. So that is still to come.
Okay, brother. Thanks for the time, Mark. You're the man. Look for more of my calls during the summer, training camp, all that. I love chopping it up with you.
Absolutely, Rich. Take care, buddy.
That's Mark Schlereth, Fox Sports, obviously multiple Super Bowl wins as well. Yes, and I know how he feels about the Jets. I once upon a time saw a Super Bowl ring of his on his middle finger. Is he still there?
Laughing.
He's laughing. I remember that, Mark. I remember that. Hey, sometimes you gotta talk a New Yorker's language to make them understand what you're saying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's all love, right? It's like more hate in sports, less hate in the world. That's just the way we operate.
Mark Schlereth, everybody.
Yes,
I like
sir.
it. There you go. There goes Mark. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.